Now the rally continues. The Dow was up 271 points today, up 0.65%. The S&P closes higher for the fourth day in a row. The S&P has a winning streak of 4 days, up 24, just under 24 and a half points to 59.17, rounding up 0.41%. NASDAQ was down a little bit, but the NASDAQ 100 actually squeaked out a gain. The NASDAQ 100, this is the NASDAQ composite, the NASDAQ 100 was up just slightly, while the NASDAQ composite was down just a little bit. The Russell was up 0.5%, and the VIX was down 4.25%, closing back below 18 at 17.83.
We have Powell's speech today. He's still concerned about the tariffs, still concerned about the impact of the tariffs, concerned about supply shocks, and doing exactly what they did in 2007. He's worried about inflation when he should be. Inflation's at a 4-year low. It's going to go back up. I'm telling you, that's what usually happens. But we're still going to get cuts out of the Fed, and we'll have a deflationary bust that will end up taking care of inflation. 4-year low, and if the Fed is so concerned about inflation, they weren't concerned in 2021 and 2022 when it was rising to 9% with the CPI. They're concerned about it now as it's at a 4-year low. Fed's world, up is down and down is up. They'll be wrong about this. They were doves when they should have been hawks with the inflation data before. Now they're hawks and they should be doves. They should be slashing because we're about to move into recession. We're always blindsided by recessions. Concerned that the tariffs are going to cause inflation. They're not. When inflation starts ticking back up, the inflation data starts ticking back up, they'll begin to freak out even more. All warning about higher longer-term rates. I keep telling you, we're going to get jumbo cuts. That's probably going to happen in the summer or in the fall. After the recession already starts, the Fed will finally figure it out and they'll panic. That's what usually happens. Microphone switched over to my computer microphone rather than my microphone itself, so audio is not going to be the best, so I apologize for that. That's why it sounds different. Notice that. Because I forgot to switch it over to my microphone, so it's the computer mic you're hearing not as good. Sorry about that.
Signal still bullish here on the S&P 500. Again, looking the downtrend as completed. At the top, we started seeing red bars. Started seeing it before, some weakness there going into that failed breakout that we have. But we started getting red bars. You've got the cloud flipping to red. Tried to flip it back here at the 200 period. Flipped right back to red bars. Dropped down. We got the higher low and the higher high. The bars slipped back to green, and the cloud back to bullish. Things still bullish here. We'll be watching to see if things start flipping back. Do we complete a 5-leg push higher, or do we have a parabolic wave 3 on our hands? Momentum line still bullish here in the daily time frame. The S&P 500. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, please take a moment to support the channel. Thank you for your consideration for that. In this video, I'm talking about the 60-minute chart of the S&P and NASDAQ. One thing I'm watching on the NASDAQ is, we had, after the peak, we saw it begin to go red. Tried to flip it back here, couldn't do it. Quickly turned right back to red, back above the 50, but then getting rejection at the 200 period moving average. Finally, we got a higher low, higher high, and it flipped. Followed by a bullish cross. Going to be watching to see. When red bars start appearing here in the hourly time frame, will not mark the very top. It will confirm it, though. It'll happen after and validate a short-term peak. So I'll be watching that with the 60-minute chart scenario that I'm looking at. Negative divergences that I'm talking about in this video. NASDAQ and S&P, we inched higher after selling off during the session. Again, I think that you've got this minor wave 1 going on here. Probably going to come to a conclusion a little higher. Watching, do we get some kind of topping tail or something like that in the daily time frame? But I talked about this divergence earlier in the week, and I think it is still setting up. I think Bitcoin's doing the same thing. S&P doing the same thing. Bouncing off the 50-period moving average here, 60-minute chart of the NASDAQ. I think you're eventually going to pull back towards the 50 in the daily, towards the 200 here in the 60-minute time frame. and I think you're going to get these higher lows. Again, I don't know if we have a inverse head and shoulder still. We've come up much higher than this level, so not so sure about that. I do think the pattern is still in play on the S&P 500, but I'd be looking for a pullback once this move is done. If we have a parabolic 3, maybe we get a divergence. This divergence only gives us a pullback for a little wave 4, and we get a wave 5, we get that larger divergence in the daily time frame. NASDAQ, same thing. Parabolic wave 3, if we end up setting up a divergence here on the RSI, you can get a small pullback and then push higher and end up getting that divergence here. Certainly possible. Certainly do not want to rule that scenario out. This whole thing could just be a parabolic wave 3 right here. Getting the 10 above the 200, that's a good sign. And the 100 period moving average, a pink line there. 10 and 20, or the 10 and the 20. The blue line is the 20. They're both above the 50, above the momentum cloud, the 10 period, and we've been above them ever since. Really good sign. So again, are we completing the 5-wave push here, or are we going to, and maybe a little bit higher, maybe around these levels? But again, it could be a parabolic 3, and we get that diversion. So don't rule that out. NASDAQ got above the broken trend line with their linear scaling here in the weekly time frame. We got above the 20-week moving average. Again, we'll probably end up pulling back, but I told you we may just blow right past these trend lines. We talked about this trend line right here. We talked about that at great length and detail. I told you we may just try to blow past the 20-week moving averages and the 200 period moving averages. Rally, we were told that wasn't going to happen. Again, NASDAQ bouncing off major support. You got a really nice looking channel here with our linear scaling, a really nice looking channel. We never took out the 200-week moving averages. You needed to do that. If you're going to have a bear market, you needed to do that. The rally was never going to happen. We were told we were going to get rejection at those 200 periods in the daily time frame. That didn't happen. Again, I think we're coming way up here. And I'm working on some longer term trend lines and channels that the NASDAQ, like I've shown you with the S&P 500, we may even go higher than this area here. CD is getting that bullish cross. Again, eventually you're going to form that divergence that I've talked about. NVIDIA ends up, which is up now over 58% from, again, the bottom. This is a parabolic 3 again. You could end up forming a divergence. So if NVIDIA ends up getting a small pullback and ends up doing that, then NASDAQ could as well get a parabolic wave 3. And I talked about the scenario of getting another pop higher, then getting a bigger pullback regarding the Elliot Wave counts. And I think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be the case with the stock market and with Bitcoin. I think we're seeing that happen now. This is the 4-hour chart of the E-mini futures of the S&P 500. The same thing here. We got above the 200, the black line. The 50 got above the 200 period. The MACD is in positive territory. Also, oscillator is in positive territory. Again, likely a 3-leg push down for a corrective move. But look at what we have going on with today's price action. The sell up, then we recovered. I think you're going to end up forming this divergence right here in the 4-hour time frame on the awesome oscillator. I talked about the divergences in the 60-minute time frame, almost equivalent here to the 4-hour time frame. You're going to see green bars. I think Bitcoin's doing the exact same thing. I think it's going to get one more push higher, pulling back. Now, the other scenario is that we have an extended wave 3, and then we get a smaller pullback for 4, and then we go 5. It'd be the parabolic scenario that I've been talking about. But I think that's going to play out here in the 4-hour time frame. That maybe Friday or Monday we complete a divergence here with the 4-hour charts here. This is the E-mini futures of the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100 futures, same exact thing. Again, it's possible that this whole thing is just a parabolic wave 3. I'm marking it as a 5-leg push higher that that's coming to a conclusion. That's more likely, but I don't want to rule this other scenario out. We just end up getting a shallow pullback, maybe a parabolic wave 3, certainly possible. But look at the 4-hour chart here this week, going up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, going sideways now turning back up. And I think you're going to end up, this is NASDAQ 100 futures in the 4-hour time frame. I think you're going to end up getting some green bars. I think you're going to end up trying to form a divergence, and we get another pop higher before a bigger pullback. 5-wave push is done, then we get a bigger pullback. If it's a parabolic wave 3, then you get a smaller pullback for 4, and then you get one more push higher for 5. So again, I'll be watching this in the 4-hour time frame here, see if we get this divergence setting up. Bitcoin's doing the exact same thing. It's 4-hour time frame. If I just go to the S&P 500 daily, you can see we still have blue bars. We get the bullish reversal of conditions. We broke the downward trend line. We got the awesome oscillator back into the positive region, the MACD back into the positive region, the stochastics forming a little divergence right here, but still be under construction, and we can remain at extremes for an extended period of time. But I'll be watching for red awesome oscillator bars. We got one last Friday, and again, just continued onward and upward above our 200. At some point, I think you're going to pull back. You got the possibility of the inverse head and shoulders, or if we get another pop higher, a little bit higher, and getting it to pull back to our 50 period. That's a green line right here. You've got the 10, the red line, and the blue line, the 20, back above the 50 in a bullish alignment. Again, we pull back. The moving averages are in our bullish arrangement, so you're probably going to get a higher low if that happens immediately here. If we get a pop and a drop, or if we start dropping immediately, I guess is, again, we're going to push a little higher. We're seeing a little volatility with the sell-off today, but then, again, we rallied back up. So I'll be watching if we get any green bars. Now, listen, if this is a parabolic wave 3, if we have a 1 and a 2, and this is a whole parabolic wave 3, and we're still working on it, then we get 4 and 5, then maybe we just get a shallow pullback. We're getting something bigger, and that could end up setting up a divergence on the awesome oscillator, something like that, where we get a divergence, and then we get a bigger pullback. It can play out that way. Signals are still bullish. Had a powerful move on the NASDAQ, rising close to 30% now here. Rally we were told wasn't going to happen, and again, everything flipped back to bullish. It remains bullish. Again, we talked about the inverse head and shoulders pattern. The horizontal level, we just blew right past that. The S&P still has a pattern in play. I don't know so much that it is in play here with NASDAQ. That's a pretty steep neckline, the angle of ascent. But again, could we get a little pop higher and go pull back, or pull back immediately? Yes. The thing about this, though, is if this is a parabolic wave 3, then we pull back, get a little pullback, and then a 5, and then get a bigger pullback after that if this is a parabolic 3. And that very well could be the case. Elliot Wave is speculation. Down here, when we were being told the tariffs were going to crash the economy, crash the stock market, we're going to have the Black Monday crash, we are bottoming. And we're going to get a massive rally back up to the 200 period and maybe even overthrow it. That's exactly what happened. Now up 22.5%. At some point, we're going to get a pullback, I'm telling you. But again, the bottom is in. I showed you the levels, major support, and we got this massive rally. Now we dropped over 21%. We've now rallied up 22.5%. We've rallied up more than what we dropped on a percentage basis. Past our 78.6 Fibonacci, Bitcoin did the same thing from the decline. We've now moved beyond that 78.6 Fibonacci. That's suggesting we're going to go eventually make new highs. I think you're likely going to set up a lower high than this level and then pull back. I think that with Bitcoin, again, we are following Bitcoin. How did I know the rally would happen? How did I know it above the 200 period? Because again, I'm watching Bitcoin. The market's following Bitcoin. Simple as that. My guess is we're going to set up a lower high here and begin to pull back. I could be wrong. Maybe we go make a new high and then begin to pull back. But at some point, you're going to get a pullback. And that scenario would be that we have a parabolic wave 3. And then you get a 4. And then you get a 5. And you go make new highs. And then you get a pullback. And that is certainly possible. We don't want to rule that out. But my signals remain bullish. My guess is you're getting a 5-leg push higher. You're going to see a lower high set up, and you'll probably pull back. But either one of those scenarios could play out. If momentum starts to turn down, then we can get the pullback sooner rather than later. But those are the two scenarios. One is it's a parabolic 3. The other one, we're completing a 5-leg push higher right here, right now. The other one, is we've got wave 1, 2, and 3. We're still working on it, maybe, and then we get 4 and 5 and still go higher. I think we've got, in all likelihood, the 5-leg push under construction here. And I think once this fifth wave of minor wave 1 is done, I think you'll pull back and get minor wave 2. But I still think you're going to get another pop higher in all likelihood. I've talked about that with the Elliot Wave count earlier in the week as well. The same thing with NASDAQ. Now, NASDAQ had the 50 period flatten out. It's starting to curl up now. Eventually, I think it's going to come back up here and get above the 200 period moving average. Doing exactly what Bitcoin did. Again, same thing here. Do we have a parabolic 3 and a 4 and a 5? Or is this a 5-leg push higher? Do we have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5 is going to come to a conclusion here and we get the pullback. I think that's most likely the case, but I don't want to rule out the parabolic 3 scenario as I've talked about. That is just as possible. We're going to have to be watching for clues. Again, Elliot Wave is speculation. Validate or invalidate counts. Those are the two counts that I am looking at. And I believe we have a 3-leg push down with the NASDAQ and S&P, and I believe that that is an ABC. I think we're going to pull back, get a higher low eventually, and go make new highs, or go to new highs if we get the parabolic 3, and then pull back, and then a much, much bigger rally. They've rallied up nearly 30%, 29.56%, over 29.5%, nearly 30% rally from when I was telling you that, hey, we've got a bottom going on here at major support, a bottom with the tariffs, complete opposite to what we were being told would happen. Up here, I told you we had a failed breakout. Now we're coming back up to those levels, so we'll be watching. Can the rally continue, maybe a little higher and get a lower high, or do we start to turn, try to push up through that level first? We'll be watching. I think you've likely got a 5-leg push higher here. It's going to come to a conclusion and we'll get a pullback. We've gone beyond the 78.6 Fibonacci right there. Same thing Bitcoin did. Same thing the S&P 500 did. So again, it's a good sign. We're eventually going to test this high right here. We'll end up pulling back, building momentum to do that, but I think we could still get another pop higher, as I've said. Now, not only do we have Powell's speech, we got the wholesale inflation, the PPI wholesale inflation data. 0.5% on the month-over-month headline number, negative number here for the core. Came in better than expected there, a little bit higher than expected here with the headline number. But the actual year-over-year came in lower than the previous reading, 2.4%. The core came in 2.9% lower than the 3.5%. So turning down there on a year-over-year basis. Tomorrow we'll get consumer sentiment data. We'll get some housing data. Continue to see some earnings. Towards the end of the month, we'll get NVIDIA. Here is the 5-leg push higher scenario. And I've just put this wave 5 right here and the 1 right here. We may go higher than that. We may come closer to this area, still get a lower high, or even try to blow past it if we have an extended 3. But the 5-leg push right here on the S&P, again, if we see it come to the conclusion, you still have a shot at an inverse head and shoulders, again, with the neckline sloping higher, and then get a pullback into the cloud, get a pullback into the bullish alignment of the moving averages. The 10 got above the 20, or the 50, the 20 got above the 50. Again, the 10's about to get above the 200 here soon. Guess is we're going to eventually peak and pull back towards these moving averages and towards the cloud and get a higher low, and the bears will tell us, here comes a crash, and we'll get a higher low and we'll reset, building momentum. But like I keep saying, we could come closer to this area up here with the parabolic rise, wave 3, or if we not finished yet with wave 5. But here I've marked a 5-leg push higher. This ABC move was corrective. RSI is back in positive territory after the extreme. That hollow red candlestick at the bottom, we talked about that, a key support. So again, if this drags out with the parabolic move, we may just go up here, get a pullback for 4, and go on and get 5, and either try to go make a new high or a slightly lower high, and you may end up seeing a divergence develop before we get a bigger pullback. I think the wave 5 scenario is more likely here, but this extended wave 3 scenario is certainly possible, and I do not want to rule that out. You've got a wave 1 carving out in 5 waves here. We're in this 5th little subwave right here, but it is possible that this is an extended wave 3. So let me be clear about that. Remember, my signals remain bullish. We saw the MACD push into positive territory. You are getting a divergence on the awesome oscillator, on the histogram. So again, it's possible we pull back for, again, the minor wave 2, or eventually a wave 4 if this is a parabolic 3 at some point. I wouldn't be surprised to see a pop higher and then a pullback. Here it is, drawing it out. I think you're going to end up getting a completion of the minor wave 1 at some point here in the near future. I think you'll pull back to the 50 period, and then I think the 50 will curl up, and I think we'll just probably overthrow it and come back to it. And then I think you're going to get an extended wave 3 This could be higher than what I have marked here. Again, we had a powerful wave 1. If that is in fact a 5-leg push higher, if it's an extended wave 3, it'll even be more powerful. So again, this is what I think is happening. Because of our powerful move, I'm starting to believe that the wave 3 is going to be much more parabolic than what I have marked here. This rally can take us up to 67 or 6,800 on the S&P 500 very easily. And here it is on the 60-minute chart. Here's my 5-leg count here. And again, a 1, a 2, possibly 3, 4. Maybe this is 5 coming to a conclusion here. And I've marked this as 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we get 5. And then we have this sloping neckline here. And then we get the pullback towards the 200, maybe beyond a 50-day in the daily, but we pull back. That's what I think is most likely going to be the case. I told you we can pop higher and get this divergence. We are popping higher. 4-day winning streak continues. Remember over here we had that 9-day winning streak, that record rally, the best winning streak in 20 years. Got another winning streak going on with this move right here, bouncing off the 50 over here. We bounced off the 50 over here at the GDP data. We got that golden cross. So again, I think you're going to end up getting this coming to a conclusion and then point back. I think you get one more pop higher, and you could see the divergence on the MACD here. You can see it better defined right here on the RSI. And then I think Bitcoin is doing the same thing. See my latest Bitcoin video from today. I'll link it at the end of the video. I show the Elliot Wave count in there. You can see it looks exactly like this. We have a rising wedge on the S&P. I think we're going probably into this trend line right here. Maybe we even overthrow it here, but I think we're going into this trend line right here, and then I think you're going to get your pullback here, or maybe it's deeper than what I've marked right there. So that's what I think is going to happen. 60-minute chart with the rising wedge looks very similar to the Bitcoin rising wedge and on IBIT Bitcoin ETF, and you can see those charts in my Bitcoin video at the end of this one. I've talked about this really nice looking channel with a linear scaling. Here on the S&P weekly chart, we got these gaps. Again, if we start to reverse tomorrow, you can get we pop higher and then start to reverse, or if we reverse and don't end up going higher, you could start getting a reversal bar here. But it could be with our wide range bar that, again, maybe we get, a doji or something this week, or, we start a reversal bar next week or something. But again, this gap I think is likely going to get filled. We pushed above these 20-week moving averages here. Then I talked about this longer-term channel on the S&P 500. Again, we bounced up major support, the trend line from the 2020 low here to the 2022 low, the 2023 low, and right there, the April bottom. That was the trend line. I talked about that level and the horizontal support. That's where we bounced. I think you've got this 5-leg push higher, and it very well could end up going up to the parallel channel with this trend line right here, and we get this massive blow off top. That could take us up to 67, 6,800 very, very easily. 5 waves push higher to complete intermediate wave 5, completing the primary wave. I think the sell-off here in 2022 was primary wave 4, and we now have this whole thing as primary wave 5. So again, I'll be looking for some kind of pullback in the not too distant future, and I think it could happen, as I said, this week or next week, very possible it could start. So far, it's not this week, but it could be very soon. My signals still remain bullish. Again,